Let's start with the hashtag #EndSARS protest and how the federal government of Nigeria has responded and the aftermath. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I penned a poem about a year ago. And in writing that poem, I said something like I was like a volcano. And I was pregnant that if I spoke, there will be an eruption. That was about a year ago. This one is even worse. #EndSARS. When the young people started the #EndSARS movement, I was intrigued. I was intrigued because Yorubas have this proverb. They say, Oromo die komo awodi, iya elumasha. What that really means is that the little chick has no way of recognizing the eagle, but the mother knows all the raptors in the sky. I knew immediately they started talking #EndSARS, that they were seeking something beyond SARS. SARS is just a code word for impunity. That's all it really is. SARS is the capacity of the state or any of its agents to act without recourse to law, legality, or even any pretense that they are dealing with citizens who are deserving of rights. So when the young people started talking about #EndSARS, I knew that ultimately they were going to end up testing the will of the Nigerian state. And this is not a state that is moored or anchored to law in any way, shape, or form. It might pretend to be, but the reality is that the Nigerian state is incapable of obeying the law or being governed by law. And that was exactly what proved to be the case. So when you speak about #EndSARS, let's be clear, it's a situation where people who have been told, young people, told that they are citizens of the world, came to the realization of the fact that they really can't be citizens of the world if they cannot be citizens in their own country. Because functionally, the Nigerian is essentially a serf serving the ruling class. It is only in Nigeria that you find the madness of a man that is paid and maintained with public funds, having the temerity and the inhumanity to turn his gun on what is supposed to be a citizen. If we even play out a worst-case scenario and we accept that we are not citizens, surely our humanities must not be denied. Each and every one of the Holy Scriptures set out clear rituals when you seek to slaughter an animal for food. You recite certain verses in the Quran before you could slaughter even a chicken. The same thing is found in the Bible. But it is only in Nigeria a man paid and maintained with my taxes can actually turn his gun with impunity and kill. And when this has happened, what do you find? Concerted efforts at concealing and stifling the truth. The #EndSARS question you've just asked is a long one, and there are so many baggages to unpack. I don't even know where to start from, really. But let's get it clear. What the young people were asking for was essentially citizenship, their rights to be respected, and what the Nigerian state has done is not unlike what it has always done when confronted by the demand for citizenship by any part of its citizenry. It happened in Odi, it happened in Zakibiam, it happened in Ogoniland. The last time I saw what I believe just happened in Lekki was on Ikorodu Road, November 1993. Soldiers killing with impunity and taking away the bodies. This time around, they have set up a panel in Lagos State. Just as I sat on this same seat months ago and declared to you that nothing will happen to Magu, let me repeat myself again now, and you can take this to the bank. The Lagos State government does not dare to allow the panel that is currently sitting in Lekki to sit. Neither does the Nigerian government or the Nigerian army. They might pretend that they are interested in finding the truth, but I guarantee you, and I triple dare them to allow that panel to sit. There are ongoing shenanigans to ensure that that panel is truncated. them finding all of a sudden that people who are funding peaceful protests are terrorists. It is designed to ensure that the youth representative on that panel walks away. It is an act of provocation. Nobody sits down to negotiate with a man who has a gun on the table. As much as I would have begged and urged that those young people remain on the panel, if only to show the lies of this government to the entire wide world, I really have no control over what they do. But I am saying here and now that the Lagos State government, Jide Sanwo-Olu, the LCC, the Nigerian Army, and everybody connected thereto have no interest in uncovering the truth of what happened in Lekki. The concerted efforts are the lies, the many Aristotelian dimension to the madness that they are calling investigation. I sit here and I say it on my honor. I challenge them, I dare them to allow that panel to work. Let people stop fooling themselves. We are dealing with a criminally reprobate bunch of rulers. And I repeat it again. There are clear evidences. I have seen with my own eyes. And I have spoken with survivors, eyewitnesses. So let people stop fooling themselves. What happened in that place? It is criminal. And the Lagos State government is criminally responsible and should actually not even begin to pretend. The sooner it comes out, acknowledges its part in what has happened, take responsibility for what has happened, the quicker we can all heal. But to turn around and seek to demonize people who have merely demanded rights, come on, come on. At the end of the day, truth dies in darkness. And some people have helped to keep the truth hidden from the people. People were discouraged from going before the panel. They were discouraged from showing up and encouraged to go into exile and go on the ground in an attempt to cover up what happened in Lekki. It wasn't only in Lekki, let's be clear. A lot of things happened in Ikotun. It happened in Badagry. Several people were killed all over Lagos. And yet, denials upon denials. Problem is that when people keep denying the truth, it simply means that they have not repented. And they will do it again, given the same opportunity. If they will get away with something like this in Lagos, imagine what has happened in the places where cameras don't go, where people do not readily have cameras to video them to show what they have done. I cannot find peace in keeping quiet. But now that I've mentioned the issue of peace, let me speak to that. To a very large extent, there has been an ongoing attempt at demonization of the NSAS protesters as though they were the ones who brought violence to the Nigerian street. Nothing can be further from the truth. Nobody has appointed me their spokesperson, but I identify with the cause of the NSAS protesters. And I did visit that ground a few times, particularly the one in Lekki, and I did go with my own daughter. But here is the thing we must all get clear, and this should sink in. When this protest started, in Abuja, we saw in broad daylight, anybody can sit down and keep denying the evidences of their eyes. But these were clear things. We saw it. Government agents in SUVs coordinating thugs and distributing money to thugs. There are videos readily available everywhere, seen by everybody. We cannot pretend that we didn't see these things. In Lagos, we all saw it in broad daylight. I know that Ramimba, to which I belong, the radical agenda in the Nigerian bar, wrote a petition to the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, positively identifying one of the persons, I think they call him Osha or something, holding a cutlass in broad daylight, chasing protesters around in Alausa, ferried to Alausa with lag bus. Now, if we begin to speak in terms of violence, let us be clear. There was no violence in Lagos until the morning of Wednesday. And the violence that happened in Lagos must be clearly and carefully situated. I believe that yes, the NSAS protesters were killed and injured and attacked, but none of the people that I saw had the capacity or even the intention or even the will, after what happened to them, to go and start, where butter boys, the bulk of them are drawn from the lower to the upper middle class. They are not about to go to a police station and start burning anything. These were people who were when we protested in my youth, we didn't have fun. These guys were having fun, but they made their point. End SARS, end impunity. They made their point, but they did so peacefully. When Dele Farotimi tried joining that protest, there was initially an argument by the younger elements. Don't come, they'll say revolution now. They were afraid. They thought Dele's presence would be the catalyst for violence. So they pushed Dele out. Some of us saw that and stayed away as well. We just stayed on the peripheral and watched what was happening. But the point is this: in spite of the fact that Dele's Take It Back movement, that were considered to be the most radical element in the Take It Back movement and in the NSAS protest, were marginalized because of the worry as to what the state would do, and in order not to provide an excuse for the state to attack the protesters. But at the end of the day, what happened? Nigerian state still acted true to type. The Nigerian state is happy to engage with terrorists, is happy to talk to bandits. He has no problem rolling out the red carpet for all sorts of miscreants. I've said it before. This country encourages madness. But those who were stood with national flag, those were not soldiers. Those are not soldiers. The people they killed were much I've met some of the survivors. They are much more braver people than those who turn their guns on them. And those who are lying, denying what is obvious, and those who are helping them in fostering these lies. Somebody stopped survivors from coming out. For weeks, they couldn't tell their stories, whilst the government was busy lying that they don't exist.
Well, Dele, you've made your point very, very clear. And some of the anger, the frustration that you're expressing is the reason why you have people in Nigeria advocating the Jerry Rawlings treatment. I'd like you to comment on the passing of this remarkable African, whether you love him or loathe him. He was remarkable. I'm sure you've read some of the hagiographies that have been printed in the press. Dr. Abati gave one of his own here, which is why he's laughing. I want to know your take on that legacy. And I'm sure you're too civilized to advocate the kind of house cleaning that he euphemistically called it, the killing of, military officers, former heads of state, Supreme Court justices, and 300 other Ghanaians in that house cleaning exercise. Now we look at change through the ballot. So I want you to give a comment, if you care to, on Jerry Rawlings and his legacy and what you'd like to see politically between now and 2023.
Whew. So many questions.
Only two.
Here's the thing. Love him or loathe him, Jerry Rawlings was a man. He was a man unlike the myopic lot that have blighted Nigeria for the last 54 years. Love him or loathe him, he had a vision for his country, for his people. Even for Africa, he had a vision. He had clarity as to exactly what he wanted to do with power. Nobody is ever going to suggest that Jerry Rawlings was an adventurer in power. He wasn't. He was a man who knew exactly what he wanted. Now, having said that, do I agree with the extreme measures that Jerry Rawlings took? I don't. I do not believe for 1 second that any agenda is worth taking another man's life.
Exactly.
But that is me.
And me.
And me.
So at the end of the day, I really can't quarrel with what he elected to do. He is the one. He is his reality. It wasn't my reality. It was his reality. He had a job to do. I'm not too sure that could work in Nigeria anymore. The only time we had the opportunity to do the Rawlings thing was in January 1966, and it was messed up. It was botched. And that's why we are still in the mess we are in today, because the coup of January 1966 became the excuse for the state hijack from which we are all suffering till today. So to now bring it to the 2023 question you asked. Any Nigerian who is still hanging around waiting for 2023 to change Nigeria is a fool. Line 20 Dele Farotimi up and ask them to become president of Nigeria. 20 of me, 20. Multiply their brain power by 10, factor of 10, and then force them to operate the 1999 Constitution with the governance system that is enshrined in it. We shall fail spectacularly. The problem of Nigeria can never be resolved by personnel changes. The system is designed with impunity undergirding it, and it can never deliver anything positive to the Nigerian peoples. Be those Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Fulani, whatever they care to be. Make an Igbo man president of Nigeria in 2023 and force him to operate the 1999 Constitution. Complete waste of time. Igbo will continue to suffer the brunt of the wickedness of the Nigerian state. Every Nigerian is rendered stateless by the 1999 Constitution. It is an iniquitous, wicked, and evil document. It has nothing good for the Nigerian people. And the longer we continue to fool ourselves believing, and let me enter one quick caveat. Our rulers are actually very intelligent when they care to be, especially when it comes to their own preservation. And I know as a fact that they're already making noises about restructuring in Abuja. The Mace Snatcher and the Lawan and that one that calls himself Baja, all of them are sat there running helter-skelter, cobbling together some lies that they intend to sell to us as constitutional, what do they call it, amendments. Let's be clear. You cannot continue to build on top of lies. You can't sustain that lie. And as long as justice is missing in a place, you continue to have strife. We need to tell ourselves the truth, and that truth is that the closest we can come to normalcy in Nigeria is to have a return to the original agreements that founded this country. Those agreements are very clear in their fundamentals. One of them, federal system. Nigeria is today not a federal system. Let's stop lying to ourselves. The word federal was brought to life by the American election. Each state has its own electoral body because it is essentially a country within a larger country. That was what our fathers agreed. Nobody agreed a situation where a clueless man will sit down inside a rock and begin to issue edicts and diktats to every other person. Nobody signed on for that in 1960. All the constitutional conferences, beginning from 1948 all the way to the 1951, all the way to 1960, each and every one of them was very clear and unambiguous. Nigeria was meant to be a federal system based on parliamentary democracy. It wasn't by accident that our fathers settled on parliamentary democracy. They wanted to make democracy as close to the people as it could be. So it simply meant that if you're a parliamentarian, you knew your people knew you. It was the aggregation of the parliamentarians that determined who became the prime minister, and they were also the ones at the regional level who determined who became the premier. So democracy was devolved. It was easier for the people to become involved. What we have today is not a democracy. What we have today is not a federation. We've just become a nation of liars who readily accept every lie that we are told.
Dele, a lot of people are quick to argue with you that even if we had it right with a parliamentary democracy, but look at the elections prior to independence. You know, that leadership was skewed to a certain area and the government of national unity was formed with a certain area. And it had to be that way because this was the British contraption. And so some will also argue with you, maybe anyway, if it's simplistic, that, if it was that good, why did we have the wear-tear killings of the 60s that made the young guys in the military say they want to liberate their country? If it was that good, why did we still have the likes of Omini Jojo and Okotiebo? If it was that good.
See, when people bring these facile arguments, they are not simplistic, they're actually quite facile. I quickly point out something to most Nigerian commentators, there is a deficiency in our educational system, and it's a deliberate deficiency. Our rulers, having nothing to be proud of, quickly ensured that history ceased being taught in our schools. What you just said is not completely correct. Let me try and break it down for you. The wet tear phenomenon in the Western region is a result of something else. You can't treat it in isolation. You have to look to the TV riots. You have to look to the Jos riots. An hegemony lost power, or would have lost power, if it did not find a counterbalance in the West. That hegemony was the one that encouraged the split in the AG. Not that there weren't disagreements, but there was a need to balance power, so there was a split. Conflicts are inevitable part of every society. Now, people keep pointing to the problems in the West. They keep pointing at the excesses of the likes of Okoti Ebo, but I say something to you. If you compare where we are today and where we were in terms of corruption now, between 1966 and today, you will find that if corruption was, Nigerian corruption was a toddler in 1966, today it's become a feral monster that is taking everything away, sucking up all the oxygen, eating up all the resources, and assuring the poverty of the Nigerian people. Whether things were El Dorado based on that agreement that governed our independence or not, that's another ballgame. We can have that discussion. But it does not change or invalidate the fact that the basis of the agreement for the Nigerian Federation, hear that, federation, is no longer a federation. The basis of the Nigerian state was that it would be a federation and that it would also operate a parliamentary system. That does not mean that it should have ended there. We were evolving. Part of that evolutionary process was what led to the creation of the Midwest region. There were constitutional developments that were interrupted in 1966. But when that interruption happened in 1966, nobody has asked the Nigerian people how they wish to be governed, by who they want to be governed, and by what system of government. All that has happened is a succession of armed bandits have sat down and dictated how Nigeria must be ruled, and it's never been for altruistic reasons. So I beg to disagree vehemently with anyone who is suggesting that we are better off today than where we were in 1966. If that should even be the case, why isn't anybody asking us?
No, but the point I was trying to make was, yes, what about the point of the British? Because this was the constitutional, parliamentary, Westminster-style democracy. But let's not forget the gerrymandering that went on in some parts of the country that automatically made some parts have more seats than other parts. That automatically said Nnamdi Azikiwe that won those elections must form government with another person.
Anyway, see, it's not an argument.
No, it's fine.
It's not an issue about who is right and who is wrong.
No, it's fine.
Okay. If you want to comment.
No, it's fine, but here is the thing, right? I don't want to find myself trapped in a binary vision situation. This is not me saying that it is all or nothing to 1966. I am pointing out the fact that we abandoned what we agreed in 1966. And in abandoning what was agreed in 1966, what we ended up with today is not what we have ever discussed, talk less of agreed. And what we have ended up with hasn't delivered anything better than what we have abandoned. So there is really no basis for suggesting that perhaps maybe the right decision was taken. It can't be right or wrong if we are not consulted.
Anyway, Dele, first, there was something you said earlier. You referred to, you said somebody that calls himself Baja. Well, I don't. Sorry? You said somebody that one that calls himself Baja. He doesn't call himself Baja.
No, I'm sorry about that. It's just the fact that, as far as I'm concerned, if you are my representative, elected representative, then I would imagine that the totality of your reason for holding that office should be about the preservation of, one, the democracy, Two, the right of the electorate, and of course their interest. But I have very little respect for any one of them sat in those legislative chambers because they have not done anything in the last 21 years to suggest that the Nigerian even matters in their calculation. All I have to do is look at the budgets. That's all I have to do.
The truth of the matter is that there are many Nigerians, including Lagosians, who think that Olufemi Akim Gbajabiamila, Speaker of the 9th House of Representatives, representing Surulere First Constituency, is doing an excellent job.
Congratulations.
And he's very popular in his constituency.
I clap for him. He's doing well.
You know, that's the record that I know. You may have a different opinion.
No, it's not a function of a different view. It's just simply that I have no respect for each and every one of those who purport to rule Nigeria today because they have done a woeful, stupid job. That's my position.
Anyway, let me ask you the next question. And this is about the attempt by the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to ask the Lagos State House of Assembly to repeal the pension law of 2007. And that move, that proposal has been supported significantly by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, under whose watch that law was originally put in place before it was then reproduced by 25 other states of Nigeria. What's your take on that?
Well, good move. At least they finally admit that it was wrong. It's becoming defensible. That's good. Let's clap for them for doing that. But frankly speaking, it goes beyond that. It goes way beyond that. These are tokenist gestures. Yes, they should be applauded. It's like somebody encouraging people, go and pick up your PVC for 2023. Yeah, tokenist gestures, clap for them. But frankly speaking, completely unimpressed. If that were to be the only hole from where the wealth of the people have been seeping out, would have been nice. That's just a token. For now, I'll keep my mouth shut and watch. But it was a right move in the right direction because it should never have happened in the first place.
Well, on diaspora voting, which has been discussed, and it was looking like it was going to become a possibility, what are your thoughts on how that might be shaped now by what we see in America, that rather embarrassing debacle that continues to unfold in America?
I didn't get that.
The question is about diaspora voting.
Oh, okay.
Which we had hoped, or some of us had hoped, would become a possibility come 2023. But do you think that the embarrassing debacle in America has thrown some kind of spanner in the works because of the whole notion of legal votes and illegal votes, mail-in votes, votes coming in late, and what have you? How would that affect that diaspora voting? And do you support that notion in the first case, considering the fact that diaspora remittances to Nigeria are part of our economic backbone? Should they have the right to vote in our elections?
Every Nigerian should have a right to vote. Every Nigerian, regardless of where they are, should have the right to vote. Whether the vote would count or whether the change of personnel will matter is another ballgame entirely. But insofar as it relates to the right to vote, what the Americans have done or not done should be of no concern of ours because, frankly speaking, the American president deals with the American issues. These are our own problems, and they are unique to us. As you've rightly pointed out, the diaspora remittances have become a major source of forex earning for Nigeria. It tells you the story of our tragedy. Once upon a time, we were the ones who used to send money abroad for people. Now they are the ones sending money to us in Nigeria. So yeah, aside from the importance of the remittances, fact of the matter is that we are truly a democracy. As many people as might be encouraged to become participants in that democracy should be encouraged. Anything that makes it easier for people to vote should be encouraged. I hope that somewhere along the line, one day in this country, the votes would count. But I do believe that whether it counts or not, even if it's only for the token, at least if I'm sending money to a place I've run away from, at least still allow me to have the illusion of belonging and be voting, Abby. So I have no problem with the diasporans voting, and I hope and pray that somebody would have enough sense to allow them to vote instead of worrying about. They can worry about not counting it later, but insofar as it relates to the principle of it, I'm in complete support of the diaspora voting in Nigerian elections.
Well, thank you very much, Dele Farotimi. Always a delight to have you on the morning show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your honesty, your forthrightness.
Thank you.